Ashes of Creations big reveal. Is this actually real? What is real? So what's happening with Ashes of Creations? Let's find out.
Hey, what up, boys? So, I was genuinely shocked at Ashes of Creation's last showcase. The tech shown was something we could only think up in our most lucid of dreams. Irony that only devs inhaling the most concentrated doses of copium could come up with this idea, and then
that sounds promising.
Implement it into a real-time setting. You bet your ass I watched it over 10 times and extracted as much information as I possibly could for you guys today. But before we get into that, our patrons and I would love for you to grab yourself a Gola, because seeing this has blown the game's potential into the next generation of open world content. And if I didn't see it happening with my own eyes, I'd have told you it wasn't possible in a massively multiplayer setting, and I'd have to slap you for spouting out a bunch of fake nonsense. Today, we'll be diving into the stream and setting expectations for this month's Thin Air, because I've not only got a bunch of interesting videos planned, but we also have another live stream to look forward to in just a couple of days now.
That's actually what I love so much about Intrepid Studios, how they are always like giving us like little news, like, oh, we are adding this today, we added like a new mob, there will be a new race, this and that, and every couple of weeks they seem to be doing this. So they really keep us feeding like crumbs, like crumb after crumb, until we get like the full cake or something, right? Like, that's actually interesting. And I like that they are also taking feedback from the community. I think feedback is very important, because sometimes we as players, we have some great ideas, and if they listen to us, they can make the game even better. That's nice.
All that bollocks out of the way?
Let's begin, shall we?
Oh, he's a vampire now.
So, interestingly, despite the fact that this system was dropped on us, seemingly out of the blue, not a single murmur of scope creep was mentioned. Damn it! I had a massive video all planned out about drama farming and taking the piss out of New World again. It was gonna be glorious, but not a single comment across all the videos, Ashes of Creations, my own, Richie's, and even Peon's most recent one, are mentioning scope creep at all. And I think because of the lack of disingenuous accusations, it's a good indication of how much this game is touching the public right now, aka not at all. Sad for me to farm views, but overall more positive for the community who genuinely want to stick around and watch the development of this highly anticipated MMORPG.
But that's to be expected, because they keep saying, oh, the game will come out soon. Are we in Alpha 2? Yeah, when is a beta coming? Like, if it takes so long, like some people are going to lose patience. They're maybe not losing completely interest, but they just don't want to like hardcore stick around and watch every single new patch notes and get like new feedbacks and this and that. Like, they probably want to wait for a bit and come back like 1 year later to see, hey, how is the state of the game? Is it now in the beta phase and stuff? Because I think if you take too long with something, even though there's like some hype there, the hype dies down after a while unless you get like the product finally, right? So yeah, I think actually the numbers will decline even further over time. It's going to be even less. But I think once the game comes out, it will be a big hype. You can compare this hype maybe to like even New World. Because when New World launched, like so many people wanted to try the game. It was like #1 on Twitch for some time even. And I see the same happening with Ashes of Creations for sure. And yeah, by the way guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. But yeah, we have to wait and see how it will develop, but it's going to be something like that. Numbers decline, game comes out, big hype, everyone plays it.
Obviously, we still have the degenerates claiming that these are PlayStation 1 graphics, but we all know these are just the boomers sucking in the copium for Pantheon.
That's not PlayStation 1 graphics.
Steven explicitly said watching the development of a game isn't for everyone, and that's reflected quite closely by my own analytics, because no matter how much I try to make the videos a quality viewing experience that offers more than just Ashes of Creation news, people are just not looking for it, and that's okay. You guys watching right now are that 90 percentile of autists dedicated to to not only watching and giving feedback for this game, but also allowing this balding, middle-aged man to keep his dream afloat. Special shout out to the patrons because your financial help is genuinely carrying me through my rent and expenses right now. I'm in deep shit if Alpha 2 really is next year. But I digress. Let's go back to the topic at hand and pretend that...
Yeah, Narc needs to do more variety stuff. Like, he needs to find like a second game that he makes like a lot of videos to. Like, either he does big variety or he does like 2 games. Because if his channel is all about like a game that takes ages to come out, like, he's going to lose numbers over time, that's for sure.
There was a massive outcry of scope creep for this month's showcase, so the script that I wrote before the live stream for that potential video doesn't go to waste. The idea of Ashes of Creation's living, breathing, player-driven world has existed all the way back during the Kickstarter. They were right when they said during the live stream that the nodes have been one of Ashes of Creation's major selling points, but the story arcs themselves have been that component that they've been hiding from
what happened
us
to this
all
moon or
this
planet?
time. Many
Partially
times we,
broken.
as onlookers of this ambitious MMO, have scratched our heads in tandem with what's currently possible in the MMORPG genre. This idea of a living, breathing, open world just sounded like Steven was spouting out a nonsense dream that simply wasn't possible. Well, no longer, because we finally understand how the core mechanics of this world are being tied together. Seeing this tech in action finally answers an incredible amount of questions that I can't wait to get stuck into, but before we begin this copium-induced trance, I want to just outline a few important mechanics that overlay on top of what we saw, just to set some context. Steven explained that this tower, and evidently the wreckage of Carfin itself, is the largest dungeon and zone within the Riverlands, already implying that the Riverlands has many, many more, of which we know a lot about, but that's besides the point of today's video.
Good.
This Tower of Carfin is not one of a kind though, as we'll
But this is important in every single MMO, in my opinion, if you want to make zones relevant. Like, don't just add 1 or 2 dungeons, but have multiple ones. If in each zone you find at least 3 dungeons or 4, it's already a good start. But yeah, you need to have some sort of PvE endgame variety, right? You need to have some cool dungeons in every single zone.
Video. This Tower of Carfin is not one of a kind though, as we'll touch on later in the month using Lineage 2 as a talking point, because we actually see another very similar tower within the Desert Biome trailer, implying that dungeons like these with multiple floors will be a heavy focus for how Intrepid will deliver their group-type content to us in the world of Ferra. He also went on to say, because of Carfin's significance in the Riverlands, it is a major questing hub, and we'll probably be spending a lot of time here and within the dungeon itself as a result of the way the storylines converge. But this chapter story tech changing the world does conflict with their previously shown weather showcase last year, so Steven did want to clarify a few questions related to that, namely, does snow or any of the other weather effects overwrite the world-changing effects from these story chapters? And the answer was basically no, not really. Because it's a pinnacle event, it does supersede the seasonal changes, things like snow, etc. But it's also implied heavily that
reminds me of New World Corruption
could change to accommodate the current situation. And Margaret brought up a very interesting one related to blood rain, which, in my opinion, should be the case for places like this, because it's an extra level of immersion on top of this already incredibly immersive system. So yeah, I'd love to see Blood Rain implemented into this zone for the fall season, Intrepid.
What is Blood Rain?
If you could just crack on with that now for me, that'd be great. Now, with the context out of the way, let's actually talk about the system as a whole. The goal here is to create a real-time Dungeons & Dragons-esque campaign with a massively multiplayer setting which has never actually been pulled off before. In fact, the very idea of this is ludicrous when you think about it, and I genuinely cannot wait to start testing it. Guild Wars 2 attempted something like this with their living world, having the players make choices based on community, and to be honest, it never really panned out the way that the players players expected it to. The events were very shallow and didn't impact the world in the way that we thought it would, because the world in Guild Wars 2 basically resets itself and rotates every couple of hours. These story arcs for Ashes of Creation, they will repeat, of course, but the time span and scale is much different, as demonstrated by their 3-day timer in the journal.
Okay.
The implications of this timer and the expectations from the player and how it impacts the world will be a major focus for testing in the Alpha 2, because it's important to see how that timer feels in context of a 1,200 kilometer world spanning across those 20 or so biomes. Remember, fast travel is extremely limited in Ashes of Creation, so considering the time it will take to get there is something that we will think about in our day-to-day gameplay. Now,
wait, so they want to make this with the traveling kind of like WoW Classic or what? Like where you have to freaking not use like a flying mount but a ground mount to get from A to B and stuff, and there are not so many, let's say, travel posts or whatever you would call them in this game. So you kind of have like one city, you have like those smaller cities, then there's another big city, and let me guess, you can only fast travel to like big cities, but small cities you have to go maybe by mount or something, right? Maybe they make it like that.
Day gameplay. Now, a really interesting tidbit I noticed from the livestream that may have gone over a lot of your heads as it was only mentioned in passing is that this specific location can be progressed by pushing one particular node that they named.
Normally, this is a story that would require us to have built up some of the nodes in the area. Either you could just build up Miraleth directly to get access to where we're going, or any of the nodes in the Riverlands could have leveled up to a certain amount to have basically enabled the story to spawn, but I'll just turn this on first.
Okay, so this is a requirement to
I
enter
found this
dungeon.
very interesting because we know that Miralith is one of the nodes within the Riverlands because of reasons that I won't get into, but they also imply that multiple other nodes can also interact with this location and trigger the events. To me, this is them talking
cool.
about a node's zone of influence creeping outwards and governing zones of interest as they grow. And
But this is what's like cool. So you see the impact of the actions that you do in a fantasy world, in this world here of Ashes of Creation, and how your actions lead to like some other things happening. I think I kind of like that idea where in a game, as you progress, you change the areas around you, you trigger like new events like we have here. I think this is really good because you get a sense of accomplishment. Like you really will feel your accomplishment and your success in the game because you know, oh, this is happening because I finished this, I did that. I think that's good because you feel like more rewarded even for doing some content because you know you will unlock some new events and stuff, right? I think that's a very good idea. I like this.
I just want to speculate for the record that I think the
I want to see my
is
progress
this.
in a game,
Provided there
so
is
it's
a
good for me.
metropolis node within an economic region, all possible events will be active and governed from that metropolis node, meaning provided a server is fully fleshed out and running months after release, every single possible story arc will be active across the entire world. This solves a lot of those issues that Guild Wars 2 had with its system, but we're speculating on speculation again. Let's get back on track. I really want to dive deeper into these mechanics and the history of MMORPG dynamic content, but we'll save this for a future video dedicated specifically to Guild Wars 2's implementation. Next, I want to touch on how these story arc systems are moving the focus away from the player and on to the world itself. The modern day focus of players being the hero of the story is extremely disconnected as a concept and utterly immersion breaking. A massively multiplayer world designed around this has its logic broken apart pretty damn quickly, as shown by the interest in the genre slowly dropping and corporate having absolutely no idea how to solve it. So
like the thing is what I don't like about like some MMOs or like RPG games, how you're not just like a recruit that has to make a name over time in a world, but you start from the beginning like you're the chosen one or something. I think it's kind of cool, like fantasy and immersion wise, if you're a farmer or something that picks up a weapon, for example, right, and you make a name for yourself over time and you become the chosen hero or something, but you're not from the beginning. Like kind of like you earn your respect. Yeah, you earn your respect. And this is what I like to see in a fantasy game, where I earn my respect and I don't have it from the start.
No idea how to solve it, so they just doubled down on it, resulting in literal single-player story games like Final Fantasy XIV being praised as a top MMO.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Well, it's popular.
The MMORPG genre used to host 12 million players just within a single game in its heyday.
Yeah, everyone
that
can
was
be the
12
chosen one.
million players invested in an open world with a real economy and player-driven motives through either PvP or teamwork-based PvE. I believe the interest has waned because MMOs are no longer trying to be MMOs. They're just trying to create linear, one-and-done, single-player story experiences that bleed you out of as much cash as they can get with as much convenience-based microtransactions as they can muster.
Unfortunately,
and players,
yes.
They're starting to become wise to it. Granted, it has taken them 10 fucking years, but it takes...
You know what's a good example for this with the microtransactions? I watched like the other day a video about Elder Scrolls Online by someone, and this creator was complaining how there's like little in-game reward, like cool mounts you can get from doing, let's say, some cool dungeons or something, or where you do like quest lines and you get cool mounts, and how everything when it comes like cool cosmetics and mounts like mostly comes from either the microtransactions from the shop, or for like events and stuff where you get like some rare cool looking stuff. But there's so much going on in the microtransactions, and they keep making new mounts, new skins, new this and that, and there's just so much extra stuff. And because they add so much to the store, they stop adding with new expansion stuff you can earn in-game, and it gets worse and worse by expansion year, so it seems, because we already hope each time an expansion comes out that we get new stuff we can farm. Even like a mount would be nice or something as a reward from maybe like one of the new dungeons, but no, we don't get that. We don't get dungeon mounts, we get microtransaction mounts in ESO and stuff, and that kind of sucks. And I see this more and more happening with MMOs. Like, people are still complaining these days about like the World of Warcraft shop, for example, and it's kind of also like that, where you get like unique mount models with cool mount emotes that you cannot even earn in-game and stuff. And it's just so annoying because all those MMOs get filled with that kind of stuff. Like, I want to see MMOs where you have actually more stuff you can earn in-game than you can actually buy.
Granted, it has taken them 10 fucking years, but it takes boomers a while to do anything. You see, I don't play MMORPGs for their story, per se. I play because I become invested in the lore. The lore of an MMORPG and the story are very different things and are delivered through stark opposite ways. One is spoon-fed to you like you're an infant, and the other is drip-fed to you like you're a crippled old man desperate for a good MMO. This is why MMOs have devolved into single-player story games, because the devs or the writers of these corporate MMOs simply lack the vision, the tech, or the talent to pull off a system where the world is the hero telling the story, not the singular player within hundreds of thousands of them, all trying to be the savior of Tamriel,
Yeah, it
the
makes sense.
speakers of the Horde, or the Endwalker, or whatever the fuck the weebs are trying to be. This simply does not make sense, and until now, nobody has tried to solve this growing problem. Trusted to be an indie team led by a degenerate millionaire to try and fix a problem that should never have existed in the first place. This is one of the core reasons I believe in this project.
I think like you need a good, like how do I say, it's like you need a good foundation of a fantasy world from either like, let's say, some novels that were already written to a certain game that's coming out, or you need to enter some big worlds like maybe Star Wars universe. I think, yeah, with Star Wars you can do this. Lord of the Rings, because it's already a very well established fantasy world with lots of lore. So yeah, if you're talking about like big world with lots of lore and stuff, I see like Star Wars having lots of potential, and we did have like we do have a Star Wars MMO. Same with like Lords of the Rings, but they cancelled a new upcoming MMO. Unfortunately, there was one under production together with a Chinese company, and they somehow pulled out, so we don't get any more new Lords of the Rings MMO. Unfortunately, would have been really, really cool. But yeah, even freaking Harry Potter universe, the Wizarding World, like a lot of people enjoy Hogwarts Legacy, but it would have been cool if we would have gotten like an MMO from this franchise, right? Because they have like so much lore there. Like, this is the thing, if you want to like immerse yourself in a world, it's good to have like a lot of backstory and lore. And if like one of the playable races has like 50 pages of lore about them, that's actually cool.
Because the team are most certainly focused on bringing back that old school experience using modern day technology, learning from the mistakes of their predecessors to truly create a system that brings us together in an open world with conflict, teamwork, and progression again. You know, the thing MMOs used to be. Now, to conclude today's video, I want to give some feedback to the devs because now we finally understand how Intrepid are solving the node and questing mechanics. My mind is positively buzzing with problems and insane ideas that are sending my autism into overdrive, and I'm very eager to express myself creatively. Firstly, we obviously don't know the extent at which Intrepid have completed and implemented their story arcs into the world. However, what we do know is that they are not procedurally generated and have been specifically curated as multi-chapter events that have many singular quests that are related to the governing story arc. It's probably safe to assume that they have most of the storylines planned out on paper and are just putting them in.
Wow, there seems to be a lot of lore, right?
What I want to do for feedback and, well, mainly just creative expression is to actually spend a couple of months speculating and building our own storylines in a series.
Wow, that's actually so cool. So we talked about lore earlier. Like, look at this. So we are here at the ruins. There's some guy, looks like some sort of elven dude or something. He looks like an elf. And yeah, they're like, are they praying to him or something? Kind of looks like that. Or to his artifact. And yeah, he has like pointy ears. He's definitely an elf. You see this here. What else do we have then? So we go to the next painting, and he's teaching them something, or he's like blessing them with this kind of artifact. He was holding that earlier too, right? And then he shows us this kind of building, this tower that we see here in the Riverlands, right? I like those kind of moon or planet phases. Maybe they're connected to this. So definitely, like, this whole area has some nice lore to it, it seems. And he's probably like in this live explaining it.
And building our own storylines in a series where I take one biome at a time, focus on 3 factors that we know about them specifically. So for the Riverlands, we can take the Goblin camps, the Minotaurs, and the Cyclops. Then we can create our own 4-chapter story arcs using the assets and snippets of lore that they've shown us over the years. If you guys like this idea, or even if you hate the idea, I simply don't give a shit because I already started on the Riverlands one and will immediately begin working on the rest. Regardless, I'm very excited about this series because we're taking the channel back to its root of speculation, and I think I have a pretty immersive storytelling format that I know you guys will love. Now, my next piece of feedback isn't specific to the story arc system. However, it is related to the zone that they showed because it is heavily highlighted as a problem that we've been banging on about since the beginning of this game's development. No, it's not Steven's gameplay, it's those goddamn spell effects. I did a deep dive of this problem in this video up here in the top corner, but I can highlight some real glaring issues here in this showcase because not only are the flashing spell effects really blinding, but it's the contrast that is extremely
that skill looks so cool with this giant hammer.
Beautiful game look very cheap. Now, nobody's denying that this zone is extremely immersive, but when you're participating in the core part of the game, the combat, the way the colors are rendered in the world, it turns the game into a light show that simply isn't fixable with dials to turn it down. Sure, you can turn it down, but the bright contrast still remains the same. When you're designing spell effects, it's important not to...
Yeah. But that's the same thing with BDO, and people freaking actually praise the combat in BDO. In BDO, you have like tiny swords like daggers. You approach your enemy, you swing them a few times, and it causes those freaking explosions, and everything looks so flashy. And people are actually, like, BDO is probably the most grindiest MMO. And apparently people really love this kind of combat where you just strike someone with a dagger and it freaking explodes or something. Because that's how BDO combat is, and people keep fighting hundreds of mobs a day to grind stuff, right? Like millions even. So I actually think, like, yeah, it's not for everyone. Like, some people dislike flashy animations when it comes to combat, but it seems to still, yeah, appeal to a large percentage of players that actually do love those kind of flashy animations. So how do you guys feel about, like, flashy animations in combat? Do you guys like them? Do you think it's not too good to have, like, a light show like this where stuff is just freaking exploding with every swing? Like, let me know in the comment section how you're liking this kind of combat, or do you prefer, like, a more simple combat? But yeah, for me, I don't mind flashy combat, to be honest. Like, it's fine.
Fixable with dials to turn it down. Sure, you can turn it down, but the bright contrast still remains the same. When you're designing spell effects, it's important not to display them in a way that looks out of place. Before, when we saw them in the grassy fields, it was passable somewhat, but now that we're seeing them in a dark area, it really highlights the core problems with the way that you're designing these spell effects. Now, you may think to yourself that it's inherent to Unreal Engine 5 as a problem, but I think the visual design team at Intrepid have the talent to fix this problem.
I mean, they can reduce the size a bit.
Into their later stages of development, the team can really utilize that Lumen tech to design effects that don't create this cheap-looking binary contrast that we see. The flashbangs,
if they reduce the size a bit, it can
light,
make it better.
It's simply not necessary and genuinely makes the combat seem awful because we as viewers can't actually see what's going on. Are you going to turn this down? What happens then? No sparks at all means that there's zero feedback from the combat, which is another problem in itself. There is a contradiction.
Yeah, like I said, if they reduce the size of all those effects by, let's say, 20%, I think that's fine. Like 20% less radius or something. Yeah, maybe like 15% even could be enough. So if that strike causes such explosion, and here's the NPC, and you reduce this by like 15-20%, so it gets like smaller, this kind of fire bubble, I think that's fine. Yeah, like reduce it by 20%, make it like 20% smaller, and you're good.
And here, spell effects should be designed to be immersive and clear. Bigger and brighter is not always better. Stephen, if you truly
need to find the middle, not too boring, not too
settings will fix this, then please, provided it's ready to show, of course, please make this a major focus for the upcoming.
I think ESO has good animations
because I genuinely think this is a problem that supersedes simple dials. But as usual, I am just one nerd, and here's my patrons, and this video went on for way too long. So here's the 90% subscriber thing showing me that my channel is dead, and if you haven't already, want to go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one because you're high on copium.
But yeah, this with the notes is actually really, really good. Like, I like this idea where if you are in like a world and if you, let's say, clear a certain area and you trigger like new events, or maybe you make like the surroundings around you, the land change appearance wise. Like there's like this one place that's like all quiet and maybe some peaceful ruin, and then you, let's say you do a note or something, and then suddenly it turns blood red, and there are like those kind of effects and particles appearing, and there's like a new event triggered there or something. I think that is kind of cool. I like that. And when it comes to combat and like his criticism about like how this is too flashy, I think that it's not just the color itself. Like sure, they can tune down maybe the colors a little bit, make it a little bit more less flashy, but also the size. I think if they reduce the size of the effects by like 15-20%, like this explosion is like a bit smaller, I think this can fix a lot of issues. Maybe it's the size as well of those effects, because this is the thing with like BDO, for example. Like I mentioned earlier, you are like on one class where you have like daggers, you swing one time a dagger and the freaking area explodes and stuff. Maybe that's like overdoing a bit, but then again, I feel like what they did with BDO with some of the skills, they have like those big animations, they actually reduced a bit of the color to have it still be big but not so bright, for example, right? So you make it a little bit darker, you remove like a little bit of color in it and stuff. Yeah, maybe they can tune this down a bit, color and size, and it's gonna be fine, I think. Like the swings and animations from like the models, I think they are alright with Ashes of Creation. They look really nice. But the colors, yeah, maybe like a little bit down the size, yeah. But yeah, with the notes, it's good because you see your progress. But some people maybe would be annoyed because they know they have to do this to do that and this and that, and it's kind of like they can't get straight to a certain zone or certain event. Maybe they've seen it like by one of their friends, like they did this or they watched the stream and they also want to do this kind of quest, this sort of event. Now they know they have to do the node first. It's good, I think, for me personally, because I like to see my progress, but maybe some people are not going to like it because they have to grind for it first. Like some people want everything delivered at once, but I think it's good. I think it's the right way. You feel more immersed into the world. It's really fun and you see your progress. Yo, those are some good news. I like the way Ashes of Creation is developing. It's gonna be a nice MMO. But yeah, guys, if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. Let me know your thoughts on the game itself in the comment section, how you are liking Ashes of Creation today. Do you like the changes? Do you like the progress system? Let me know. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time.